The rain hadn't yet begun to fall over Chicago that evening, but the air inside Salvetti's already felt heavy, thick with unspoken rules, old money, and the kind of silence that only the truly powerful can afford. At the edge of the dining room, near the service station where the staff vanished like shadows between courses, Lily Carter adjusted the cuffs of her uniform for the third time. Not because they were crooked, they weren't, but because the simple act gave her hands something to do besides tremble. She was 22, studying linguistics at night, working double shifts by day, and surviving on a name that wasn't hers and a past she'd buried under layers of careful performance. She'd learned early that in a city like this, invisibility wasn't weakness, it was armor. And tonight, that armor felt paper-thin. Across the room, Dante Moretti sat with his mother, Isabella, the matriarch of a family whose name opened doors and closed caskets. Dante didn't look like a man who ordered hits over espresso. He looked like a man who'd been carved from marble and then taught to breathe. Impeccable suit, eyes that missed nothing, and a stillness that made even the waitstaff lower their voices instinctively. But it wasn't him Lily watched. It was his mother. Isabella Moretti sat with perfect posture, her silver hair swept into a low chignon, her hands resting gently on the tablecloth, except they weren't still. They moved in small, precise gestures, subtle enough that most would miss them. Asking for water, a napkin, a moment of attention. But no one responded. Not the busboy refilling bread baskets. Not the sommelier polishing glasses nearby. Not even the head server, who'd walked past her table twice without so much as a glance. Lily's chest tightened. She knew that look, the quiet resignation of someone used to being unseen. She'd seen it in her cousin Marcus's eyes back in Detroit, before she'd learned to sign, before she'd promised him she'd never let anyone ignore him again. Before she'd run. Before she'd become someone else. Lily, Heather hissed from the host stand, snapping her fingers. Table 9 needs their Barolo. And for God's sake, don't spill it this time. Lily nodded, already moving toward the wine cart. The bottle cost more than her weekly grocery budget, but she handled it like it was nothing, because that's what you did here. You treated extravagance like routine. You made the impossible look effortless. She approached the Moretti table with practiced neutrality, tray balanced, posture straight. But as she uncorked the wine, she caught Isabella's eyes, deep brown, warm, and pleading. The older woman's fingers lifted slightly, forming a question. Do you understand? Lily froze. Just for a heartbeat. Then, without thinking, she set the bottle down and signed back, yes. How can I help you? The change in Isabella's face was instantaneous, like someone had turned on a light in a room long kept dark. Her hands flew, graceful and quick. The risotto. It tastes like my nana's. Could you ask the chef if he uses saffron from Lampedusa? Lily smiled, really smiled, for the first time all night. I'll find out for you. Behind her, the hum of the restaurant dipped. Conversations paused. Glasses stopped clinking. Because in this world, you didn't just speak to Isabella Moretti, you performed for her. You bowed. You flattered. You pretended. But Lily hadn't performed. She'd connected. And that was dangerous. You sign. A voice said low, controlled, edged with something unreadable.
Dante.
He hadn't been looking at her before. Now he was studying her like a puzzle he intended to solve. Fluently. Lily turned, keeping her expression neutral. I grew up with a deaf cousin, sir. It's just second nature. Just. He arched a brow. That dialect is Neapolitan-influenced Italian sign. Rare, even in Italy. You don't just pick that up. Panic flickered in her ribs, sharp and cold. She'd been careless. One moment of kindness, and she'd cracked her own facade. I watched videos, she lied, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I like languages. Dante didn't blink. What else do you like, Lily Carter? The name hung between them. Not Lily Adams, the alias she'd chosen. Lily Carter. Her real name. The one she hadn't used in 2 years. Her breath caught. He knew. Of course he knew. In this city, secrets were currency, and hers had just been exposed. She forced a smile. Right now? Finishing my shift. She reached for the wine again, but Dante's hand closed gently, firmly, around her wrist. Not to hurt, to hold. My mother hasn't smiled like that in months, he said, voice softer now. Thank you for that. The contact sent a jolt through her, unexpected and unwelcome. She pulled away, murmuring an excuse, and fled back to the kitchen, heart hammering. She expected to be fired by midnight. Instead, at closing, Heather handed her an envelope. Inside, a $500 tip and a note in elegant script. Thank you for seeing her.
DM.
3 nights later, Lily was refilling water glasses when she felt it, the weight of a gaze she couldn't ignore. Dante sat alone at his usual table, no entourage, no pretense. Just him, a glass of whiskey, and eyes fixed on her like he'd been waiting. The manager appeared at her elbow, voice tight. He wants to speak with you. Now. She approached slowly, notepad clutched like a shield. Good evening, Mr. Moretti. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Not a request. Saturday, you're not from Chicago, he began. Your accent slips when you're tired. Boston, maybe? Or Detroit. She said nothing. You tense when Bianchi walks in. He's ex-IRA, worked with the O'Connells. Your father's old allies. Her blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about. Lily Carter, he said, leaning forward. Daughter of Marcus Carter, former enforcer for the Riverfront Syndicate. Disowned after refusing an arranged marriage to Sean O'Connell. Vanished 2 years ago. Changed your name, your hair, your life. He paused. But you kept your hands. She swallowed hard. I left that world. No one leaves, he said quietly. Not really. Especially not when your youngest brother is still in it. Her head snapped up. Tommy? He's at UVM. Safe. For now. Dante's gaze didn't waver. Flanagan's making moves. Your father's losing control. And Tommy's next on his list. Flanagan. Her father's right-hand man. The man who'd broken Marcus's fingers for stealing $20. Why tell me this? Because my mother thinks you're an angel, Dante said, almost smiling. And because I need someone who knows Flanagan's patterns. His weaknesses. His secrets. You want me to betray my family? I want you to save it. Outside, rain began to fall, streaking the windows like tears. And in that moment, Lily understood. Her quiet life was over. The choice wasn't between hiding and running anymore. It was between surviving and fighting back. The rain hadn't stopped by the time Lily stepped into the back alley behind Salvetti's. The untraceable phone Dante had given her clutched in her palm like a lifeline. The black SUV idled at the curb, engine purring like a predator waiting to strike. Carlo, Dante's lieutenant, stood by the passenger door, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of his hat. Get in, he said, voice low. We don't have time for goodbyes. She hesitated only a second, long enough to glance back at the restaurant's glowing windows, at the life she'd built brick by careful brick. Then she climbed inside. The safe house was nothing like she expected. Nestled on the shores of Lake Michigan, it was a modest cedar cabin, surrounded by pines and silence. No guards. No surveillance cameras. Just wind in the trees and the distant lap of water against the dock. Mrs. Moretti was already there, wrapped in a cashmere shawl, signing to herself as she stirred a pot of soup on the stove. When she saw Lily, her face lit up. You came, she signed. I knew you would. Over the next 3 weeks, the cabin became a sanctuary and a classroom. Dante arrived each evening with updates, files, and a quiet intensity that never wavered. He taught her how to spot a tail, how to sweep a room for bugs, how to hold a gun without flinching. But more than that, he listened. When she spoke of Tommy's laugh, of Marcus's stubborn pride, of the night she'd fled with nothing but a backpack and a bus ticket, Dante didn't offer platitudes. He simply said, you did what you had to. And for the first time in years, Lily felt seen, not as a liability, not as a pawn, but as a person. Then came the breakthrough. A decrypted email chain between Flanagan and a Russian arms dealer. Proof of diverted shipments, falsified ledgers, and a chilling directive. Eliminate the Carter heirs. Start with the girl. Lily's hands shook as she scrolled. He's been watching me since I enrolled, she whispered. My literature professor, the barista at my usual cafe, they were all his eyes. Dante's jaw tightened. He's calling a sit-down with your father tonight. Neutral ground. The old fish warehouse on Pier 12. It's a trap, Lily said instantly. He'll kill my father and blame the Morettis. Start a war that wipes out both families. Exactly. Dante met her gaze. Which is why we'll be there first. She didn't hesitate. I'm going in with you. Mrs. Moretti signed urgently. It's too dangerous. They'll kill you on sight. I ran once, Lily replied, her hands steady now. I won't again. The warehouse loomed like a ghost against the night sky, its rusted beams groaning in the wind off the lake. Lily moved through the shadows, the flash drive hidden in her sleeve, Dante's men positioned at every exit. She spotted Tommy first, taller, harder, his eyes scanning the perimeter like a soldier. Her heart ached. He looked so much like their father. Inside the office, the scene unfolded just as she'd feared. Flanagan poured 2 glasses of whiskey, his voice smooth as silk. The Italians are moving against us, Patrick. This meeting's a ruse. Her father, older, wearier, but still unmistakably formidable, nodded slowly. I felt it coming. Flanagan slid a glass toward him. Drink. We've earned it. Lily didn't wait. She kicked the door open. Don't touch that glass, duh. He's poisoned it. Time stopped. Her father's eyes widened. Flanagan's hand flew to his gun. She's with the Morettis now, he snarled. A traitor. Check the files, Lily said, tossing the flash drive onto the desk. Bank transfers to Moscow. Hit orders on Tommy and Sean Jr. plans to frame Dante for your murder. Her father plugged in the drive. His face darkened with each passing second. Then, without a word, he backhanded Flanagan so hard the man staggered. You betrayed me, he growled. After 30 years. Flanagan lunged for the flash drive, but Dante stepped from the shadows, gun raised. It's over, Sean. What followed wasn't a battle. It was justice. Flanagan disappeared that night. Officially, he'd fled the country. Unofficially, Lily knew better. And she made her peace with it. 6 months later, the city had changed. The Carters and Morettis weren't allies. Not exactly, but the war was over. Her father had retired to County Cork, passing control to her oldest brother with one condition: keep the peace. Lily stood now in the garden of the Moretti estate, sunlight filtering through the oaks, watching Mrs. Moretti teach sign language to a group of young recruits. Not enforcers anymore, community liaisons, part of Dante's quiet revolution to rebuild their legacy. Penny for your thoughts? Dante appeared beside her, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. She took one, their fingers brushing. Just thinking, if I hadn't signed that night, none of this would have happened. Maybe, he said. Or maybe it was always going to. She turned to him. This man who'd seen through her lies, who'd fought for her family when she couldn't, who'd shown her that strength wasn't about silence, but about speaking up, even when your voice shakes. No regrets, he asked softly. She smiled. No regrets. Because in the end, it wasn't the chandeliers or the marble floors that mattered. It was the moment a shy waitress chose to be seen, and in doing so, found not just safety, but a future worth fighting for. And as Dante's hand found hers beneath the Chicago sun, Lily knew, some stories don't end with escape. They begin with courage.